Hello and welcome our beloved viewers to RTD's News English Edition. As usual, we'll begin tonight's news to the major and top highlights. Working visit of the Parliamentary Vice Minister of Defense, Djibouti, Japan. And on the international scene, UN Secretary General visits Sahel refugees. Those were our major top highlights. Welcome back to our newsroom, our beloved viewers. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, had paid a vibrant tribute to the memory of the late Ahmed Burhan Umar, an appreciated public figure known for his constant commitment to the brotherhood of the different national components of our country. It is with shock and dismay that I learned of the death of the late Ahmed Burhan, an interfaith patriot whose attachment to the country was matched only by the inordinate passion he had for all Djiboutians, said the head of state. He will long remain engraved in the memory of his citizens for his political know-how. He will long be remembered by his citizens for his political skills, his unparalleled realism, and his determination to always uphold the consensus and the general interest, said President Guelleh in his wake. Man of culture and intelligence, he also forced respect through his signatory to draw his relations in all circles in our country. Also observed the President of the Republic praising his qualities of orator, fine strategist, and honest citizen with very sharp moral values, always knowing how to return the friendship. May God welcome him in his eternal paradise, implored the head of state, who addressed his sad condolences to his family, his relatives, to all the Djiboutian people, in which the deceased notable invested with customary and traditional authorities had many friends. Former minister with the government of Council of Djibouti before the national independence, the late Ahmed Burhan became later the charge with the missions of the presidency of the republic. He was recently enjoying a peaceful retirement before being called back to God this Wednesday. He leaves behind an important family composed of many children and grandchildren. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Defense, His Excellency Mr. Saeed Nur Hassan, received this Wednesday, May 4, 2022, in the presence of Lieutenant General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, Chief of General Staff of the Armed Forces, the Parliamentary Vice Minister of Defense of Japan, Mr. Nakason Yatsuka, the Director General of International Relations. On a 48-hour working visit to the country, Mr. Nakason was keen to meet the country's authorities. This courtesy visit is part of the excellent relations of cooperation and exchange between the Republic of Djibouti and Japan. Mr. Nakosen, Parliamentary Minister of Defense of Japan, was accompanied by the Ambassador of Japan to Djibouti, Mr. Umiu Utsuka, and his staff. The first meeting was attended by the Brigadier General Tahir Ali Mohammed, Chief of Defense Staff, Colonel Major Mohammed Kayat Guelleh, Deputy Chief of Defense Staff, and Select Committee of Officers of the General Staff of the Armed Forces. Also present were Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, Chief of Staff of the National Gendarmerie, and Colonel Abdurrahman Ali Kahin, Acting Director General of the National Police. The Republic of Djibouti and Japan have excellent cooperation relations, especially in the military field. Indeed, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces are particularly involved in the training of the ADF, in the provision of risk management in natural disasters, and the training of driving heavy machinery such as bulldozers, gardens, and etc. On his arrival, Mr. Nakason was welcomed by Mr. Saeed Nur Hassan and General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim. Then Mr. Nakason, Parliamentary Vice Minister of Defense of Japan, greeted the picket of honor and the delegation of officers to join the meeting room of the Hotel of Officers Hassan Basoma for an interview. For his part, Mr. Nakasun Yasutaka, Vice Parliamentary Minister of Defense of Japan, thanked the Djiboutian government for the welcome he and his delegation received. Mr. Nakasun stressed that the frontier relations between Djibouti and Japan remain at a good level and should be further developed. Djibouti, by its strategic position, is not only a reliable partner of Africa, Japan, but also the whole world. Japan depends economically on its maritime facade, hence the crucial importance of fighting against piracy, Mr. Nakusini Asutaka did not fail to thank the Djiboutian government for its support to the establishment of a Japanese base on the national soil. Mr. Nakuson said that the Japanese base celebrates today its 10th anniversary of existence, and it is thanks to the assistance and support of Djibouti that Japan can carry out its missions of fight against piracy. And the vision of Japan, Djibouti remains an important partner in the exchange, and it's advisable to raise to a higher level this relationship of proximity and mutual trust and to wind it to other fields. Finally, Mr. Nakuson, Japan's parliamentary vice minister of defense, commended Djibouti for its significant contribution to the country's stability in the region, including the deployment of 2,000 men in Somalia as part of the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, formerly known as AMISOM. Mr. Saeed Nuh Hassan, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Defense, first welcomed Mr. Nakason and his delegation to Djibouti. In his speech, His Excellency Mr. Saeed Nuh Hassan underlined the friendly relations and multiform cooperation that our two nations maintain, particularly in the socio-economic field, which contributes to the fight against the scourge of poverty by the construction of schools, but also in that of the defense in the framework of the assistance which Japan brings to the ADF in the field of training of engineering machines. At the end of the exchange, the two ministers exchanged gifts and took a family photo to immortalize this convivial moment. Within the framework of the implementation of the project entitled Mitigation for Secular Picture on Marine and Coastal Biodiversity and Strengthening the National System of Marine Protected Areas executed by the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development in close collaboration with UNDP, the objective of this project is the resilience of marine and coastal biodiversity. Therefore, partnership agreements were signed in the morning of Wednesday, May 2022, in the presence of the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Abdelkader Musa Halim, and the UNDP representative Mrs. Emma Nguano, as well as the partners in the cabinet of the ministry. In the framework of the sustainability of the project activities, and in order to ensure the sustainability of the activities undertaking, it is planned by the project to develop public or private partnerships with the key institutions of the project in order to pool the efforts made and undertaken by the partners in terms of environmental protections. These partnerships will also constitute a fruitful cooperation between the institutions in order to harmonize the actions or interventions on the field. The partners who proceeded to the signature of the conventions were the following: the Directorate of Maritime Affairs, the Directorate of Fishing, the National Union of Women of Djibouti, and the National Office of Tourism. In her remarks, the representative of UNDP in Djibouti, Mrs. Emma, expressed her satisfaction and willingness to work closely with the Ministry of Environment. For his part, the Secretary General of the Ministry, Mr. Dini Abdullah, spoke about the content of the signature and collaboration. The Director of Maritime Affairs, Mr. Ali Mirah Shahim Dawood, expressed his appreciation in an interview with the press. Moving on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr and under the auspice of the Ministry of Youth and Culture, are organizing the CDCs of Hajdidi, Section 7, Sheikh Musa, and PK12, many fairs of games and animation stands, several hundreds young people supervised by senior officials of the Ministry of Youth and Culture and all the officials of the CDCs in question, as well as members of community councils and volunteers of the neighborhoods participated in this flagship events of Eid. The children enjoyed the games and entertainment full of attraction, which were also moments of meeting and sharing in an atmosphere of joy and gladness. The local communities of the CDCs where these festive activities are organized have welcomed this initiative of proximity and have addressed their warm thanks to the Ministry of Youth and Culture. Dr. Hiba Mu'min Asawi welcomed the organization of these fairs through community development centers and in favor of the youth and children. Finally, she wished all Djibouti youths a happy holiday, urging them to the spirit of solidarity, cohesion, and sharing, and their involvement in the process of sustainable development initiated in our country in accordance with the roadmap of His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh. After 1 month of a training course at the Gule Stadium for the national team, boys and girls, the Federation mobilized the best technicians who met during 1 month, day and night, to prepare the team. On the last day of the training course, the Federation of Tennis gave all the teams official t-shirts, shoes, and the color of the country, and the President and the whole board gave the last instructions as well as the last recommendations, and the President raised that the ball is their camp and that all the countries wait for the results. On Monday, May 3rd, 2022, the delegation left the country for Addis Ababa to participate in the Championship of East African African countries, which will take place from May 4 to 8, 2022. The delegation will compose of a team of 5 players and a female team of 5 players and 2 coaches, and the president of the federation, also the international referee Mohamed Sougeh, was part of the letter, who was appointed director of the cooperation by the International Federation. This is an honor more for our country. The federation has mobilized a lot of force for the success and the displacement of this delegation to the great regional event. Let us recall that the annual tournament, which gathers every year the 15 countries of East Africa and the Ethiopia, will organize this 2022, and our federation will have the responsibility to organize in 2023. We have just learned with sadness the death of the late Abdi Salah Yusuf, who died last night at the General Hospital Peltier following a long illness. The deceased was a religious man, is very respected to all Djiboutians indeed. The late Abdi Salah Yusuf studied in Egypt and performed several functions such as agent of the National Fund in the 80s, and then he held a position at the UNHCR and finally the customs. The deceased was a brother of the independence fighter Yunus Salah Yusuf and also an experienced artist of national renown. The late Abdi Salah Yusuf leaves behind him 7 children and 12 grandchildren, and the Director of Legal Affairs of the Ministry of Budget and Vice President of the Private School of Management. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Shifting gears towards the international scene now, UN Chief Antonio Guterres visited a camp for displaced people in Niger on Tuesday, where he appealed for humanitarian and military aid for the impoverished country battling jihadist insurgents. Antonio Guterres visited the Kolum camp in the southwest of the country on the 4th day of a trip to West Africa, delayed by the crisis in Ukraine. By this, our beloved viewers, we conclude tonight's news English edition. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for the final edition, which is in French. Spend a wonderful evening, and make sure to take care and have fun. Thank you.